Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the United States of America, and also Big C Sports voted the #1 sports show in the universe. I want to say today is a beautiful day. It is Friday the 13th. 2017, and I want to thank all of our great listeners from Latin America. So bienvenidos to you. Thank you so much for following Charlton and Big C Sports. And also, I want to tell you my partner, Big C, is actually out on duty. He's been doing some traveling throughout the East Coast. So hopefully he's having a lot of fun. Big C, I know maybe he may have drank too much moonshine from what I understand, but I still want to say thank you to all of our listeners and Latin America. So bienvenidos to you. And I also want to say thank you for listening in across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Thank you so much for following Charlton and Big C. There's no one I love more than my good old boys in the United States, but I do want to say thank you, Canada, for following Charlton and Big C Sports. Oh, Canada! You see, my voice is back, Big C, so you can laugh about me as you listen in to Charlton and Big C Sports Show. I know you're going to be laughing at the way I sing, but there's no one I enjoy more than the good old boys in the land of the free and the home of the brave, and that's the good old boys in the United States of America. And before we even get into this show, I just want to say what a great, classy president we're saying goodbye to, and President Obama. And he takes his vice president, Joe Biden, who's just been an excellent service person for the United States of America for many decades, and he gives him the Medal of Freedom Award. And it was a surprise to the VP. And, you know, Biden has been right there as Obama's right-hand man, and they've worked well together over the past 8 years, bringing a lot of class and dignity to the White House, and also ending 2 wars that cost many American lives. So just want to congratulate President Obama and the First Lady Michelle Obama on a great job being the first African-American president in the United States of America, and also the great Joe Biden, just how great he's been as an ambassador for Americans as well. And the First Lady Michelle Obama, the first African-American First Lady of the United States of America. Just a thunderous applause that they received last night at the awards. There's an award show that took stage for the Black Experience, and that was done at the African American music and stories that changed the American lifestyle, the way things have happened here. It was at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, and Oprah Winfrey was part of it. Now, as an African American man on Big C Sports, I'm so grateful to Big C and what he's meant to this program. And not only that, but when I look at what's happened in the world of sports and the diaspora of the Black experience in the United States of America, many of the successes that we've had as a people, and I think all people are created equal. That's my belief. But we know the United States has not always treated people that way. And I know we talk about sports and how we blend Hollywood and entertainment. And I think it all came to a crescendo at the John F. Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. And so many things that I'm proud of when it comes to, you know, what do you stand for and how do you achieve? Well, Big C Sports, I can say it only exists because of the great people before us that made it so possible for equality to happen in our society. I know everybody says, well, we don't really have equality, but I think America gives us a great start for that. And what I want to do is just pay a little bit of homage to the program that came on. It aired Thursday at 9 Eastern Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And it's just amazing how the Smithsonian, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, it was a 2-hour special. Because oftentimes when you hear about success in Black America, it's about sports. And we know that sports has been a lightning rod, and it's also been something that has galvanized the United States. People can get together behind sports when they can't even get together behind religion and the church. And so what I liked about the National Museum of African American History and Culture in that special, they talked about the cultural impact through dance, through the spoken word, and through musical performances. And Big C Sports is part of that spoken word as we deal with performances as well in Hollywood figures. And as African Americans, it left a record of how we felt as we moved through life not only from the spiritual side, but the economic side. America is a land of opportunity. And if you don't take advantage of the opportunity, then you can always sit back and wonder how you can or how you can't. But part of that is you just got to find a way to make it happen the same way we do Big C Sports. One of the great things I appreciated about watching the program is that on the upper perch they had President Barack Obama and also the First Lady Michelle Obama. And it's amazing how seeing everything that the president has gone through, not just as a president, but as an African-American man in this society, where even recently he had the president-elect Donald Trump even questioning if he was an American citizen. What president has ever had to deal with such hatred and bigotry, not only as a president of the United States having to deal with that same type of garbage that we talked about that was preceded Jim Crow, but to have that type of personality be accepted by millions of Americans, and what Donald Trump spewed as a lot of hate, and it got him into the White House, because there's still people who still think the same way many people thought during Jim Crow, which we had separate and unequal. So I just like the class that President Obama showed, even going through such hatred, and how if he had behaved the same way Donald Trump behaved, I doubt if he would have been president at all. And I think there's hardly anyone who can refute that. But I do want to get on and say that this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And Big C, we know you're back there flying around the East Coast going to different events. But I do want to just say I'm so proud and honored about the African American Museum. And it wasn't just about African Americans. The A-list of stars included presenters, the beautiful Angela Bassett, who is a great actress and someone who's also been a role model for young women of color, as well as Caucasian women and Latino women, because she shows how you can play roles with grace and class and dignity. And if you ever saw the biceps on her, you know she's working out. So it's going to make me, I don't know about you, Big C, but I'm going to have to put down some of those French fries and start doing some of the same kind of push-ups and working out that Angela Bassett's doing. And so congratulate that. And just a great event. Another person I want to pay homage to is a great comedian, Dave Chappelle. And not only was he funny when he was out touring and one of the greatest stand-up comedians in the history, I think, of the United States, we also knew that he took a kind of an absence from the business, and whatever happened to that, I'm not really sure, but he's one of the funniest guys, and even had President Obama laughing as he was giving some kind of his live performance on stage in front of a cast of superstars in Washington, D.C., and so really appreciate that. Now, this is what I think about not only Big C Sports, but the sports world in general. And we talk about all the time how Big C brought it up, that sports is a galvanizing industry. It brings people together from all races, all religions, and whatever your beliefs are and whatever it happens to be. In sports, we tend to root for the same team, and we tend to root against other teams, and we'll talk about NFL football coming up. But it doesn't mean that we can't get along just because you look at things differently. I want to really thank Tom Hanks, not only as an ambassador to the arts. He's a great actor in Hollywood. He's someone who has carried so many ranges as an actor. But this is something I want people to understand, that in the world of sports, we congratulate many African Americans on our prowess, and in the world of entertainment we do as well. But the way we bring our society together is exactly what Tom Hanks did. When Tom Hanks spoke at the event as a Caucasian, they didn't say the Caucasian, Tom Hanks. Everyone knows he's a great actor. And even though you think about him as a great actor, I still think one of his better roles was Forrest Gump. And I know he's done many, but just someone that can go to the antithesis of who he is and make it just a stellar performance. But I want to appreciate Tom Hanks because he was there. And let's just be honest, in the white society of Hollywood that has been very known to be very segregated, and here are people, we talk about Meryl Streep, or we talk about the great Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise, many African-American actors, whether it's a Will Smith or a Samuel L. Jackson, they meander throughout the white part of Hollywood because it is still separate. In Hollywood, we know they're trying to bridge that gap, but if we're honest, and that's what our show is Real Talk, it's still separate. So I appreciate Tom Hanks coming on stage and paying homage to some of the great African Americans and the men of the Tuskegee Institute, and he got a standing ovation in a crowd that's predominantly African American. So number one, I have a lot of appreciation and respect for Tom Hanks, but I think that shows even the people at the highest point of power in Hollywood and the oligarchy that it is, that when we put people together who are excellent, it's not about dividing, it's about coming together the same way President Obama gave Vice President Joe Biden the Medal of Freedom Award. We can all do that throughout all of our, whether we call it private sector or public sector, because we deserve to move forward. I know Donald Trump wants to take America back to when it was great again, and someone has to show me in history where it was more great than in the past than it is now. And I'm just appreciative of Hollywood and how they're starting to make that same impact into integration the same way we've done it in the world of sports. And it takes all sides. I'm not saying one side any better than the other. We're all Americans, but it doesn't mean we cannot be competitive. So again, my biggest congratulations to Tom Hanks and just paying homage to the Tuskegee Airmen, the surviving 6 that are still here, and the excellent work they did. There's someone that I respect so much in the world of acting, and we talked about sports, and we talked about how sports and politics and the entertainment industry mix it together. There's no one better than the great Samuel L. Jackson. I know he does the commercial with Charles Barkley and Spike Lee, and they're driving to the Final Four in the Cadillac Escalade, Big C, of all cars. They drive an Escalade, but theirs was clean. They didn't have a lot of mud on theirs. They showed more respect to the standard of the world, Big C. I'm sure you'll hit me up on that on Twitter like Donald Trump does, Big C. Hopefully you'll be nicer when you tweet me the way Donald Trump tweets people. But I want to say, Sam Jackson, I think he's done so many excellent roles. But one of the roles that I just think was something that I've watched probably at least 20 times, and I would say that was in his role in Pulp Fiction. And in Pulp Fiction, he had that role as a gangster, okay? And you think about gangsters, and he was a nice gangster because he gave you a couple of times before he pulled the gun and shot you. But I do think that his role in Pulp Fiction, he and John Travolta, it was amazing, and just appreciate him and what he's done. Now, when you talk about acknowledging some of the great people there, I'm going to get to that too, but I want to say this segment is sponsored by the California Lottery. What can a buck do for you? And go out and buy a lotto ticket, because a lot of that money goes back to help the schools, and we know the schools need our help, and they need help with funding. So thank you for the California Lottery, and go out and buy a ticket. But you do want to spend wisely. You don't want to be irresponsible when you buy tickets. I want to get back to this beautiful show that happened in Washington, D.C. at the African American music and stories that were told that changed American life, and it's called the African American History and Culture at the Smithsonian. I just appreciate so much Quincy Jones. When you talk about music, talk about something that makes the clouds roar. Quincy Jones, in his work with the late Michael Jackson, who was also honored at the show by Neil and also by Usher. Quincy Jones, a producer, and he's done so much work with Don Misher, Janelle Monáe, and Will Smith. All of these great people. You can trace Quincy Jones and his influence not only in Black America but in Hollywood back to the roots that opened doors for so many people. And to see him there, along with President Obama and Michelle Obama, just appreciate that. And we talk so much about giving homage and paying homage to the people who came before us back in the day, Big C. And I just appreciate what they have done and paved the road work for, the Yellow Brick Road that we always talk about. We couldn't even have a Big C sports show without some of the work that has been done in the past. And when you talk about music and entertainment, you can't go back much further than the great Quincy Jones. Now, I think about some of the things happening now in the world of performances. One of the better voices in the world when I think about it, and I don't think anyone can really dispute it, was the voice of the great Mary J. Blige. Just someone who can carry so many tunes. She has such a great range. Also, like Angela Bassett, Big C, we have to find out who they go to for their personal training, because they both have these biceps that look like they were made in the factory. They don't eat a lot of French fries and hot and fast food the way we do, Big C. We got to really start watching that six-pack. So very, very much impressed with the talent that was there on stage. Another lady that I want to just pay a lot of respect to is the great Christina Aguilera. Now, here's someone who has, just like Tom Hanks, as a Caucasian person, these people are at the top of the field when it comes to entertainment, irrespective of what color, what your ethnicity is, etc. But for the great Christina Aguilera to sing the way she sings, just appreciate her along with Mary J. Blige for the way they carry a tune. And for them to be there and pay homage at the African American Museum in the history and culture that we all appreciate, and I hope that we don't lose that. You know, even going back to Dave Chappelle when he was talking, and they played some skits about Richard Pryor and how he talked about African Americans are the original people on the planet. And that's scientific. That the late Dr. Greg Remendo and Louis Leakey, they studied genetics, and also they studied DNA, and they all trace it back that life all came out of Africa, out of the Nile region. And that's for every human being. And as we have tracked throughout the planet, people interact and miscegenate and do whatever various things, but we're all one people. But that truth must be told, because sometimes African Americans have been told to feel bad about themselves, and that's why I'm so proud to have these great performers. And Christina Aguilera, just what a great voice, great entertainer. Love hearing her sing. The great Herbie Hancock. Herbie Hancock, he's been around doing his thing for decades, and for him to get a standing ovation, just appreciate what he brings to the world of music and the world of entertainment. Big C, I know that you've been around and you've seen some of the great musicians and entertainers over the years. The great Stevie Wonder, while he performed on stage, you know, Stevie Wonder, I think about how Donald Trump made fun of that reporter who had a handicap, and he was jittering and gesticulating with his hands, and the president-elect Donald Trump made fun of him. Now, there's a lot of handicapped Americans who, even handicap is just a medical term, but it doesn't mean you don't have vision. It doesn't mean you don't have talent, but it does mean that you should be treated with liberty and respect like anybody else. But still, Donald Trump got elected even after making fun of someone. President Obama would never do that. And Stevie Wonder also has his own handicap, but I'm sure President-elect Donald Trump would probably make fun of him not having sight. But for everyone who has an excuse as to why they can't do something. And I was talking with my family members about how Stevie Wonder has been on top of the world for so long, and he's done it without eyesight, but he has vision. And it's vision that can make you succeed. And I just appreciate someone like Stevie Wonder being there, performing at the African American Museum, the Smithsonian, the new National Museum that is there for African American history and culture. And it's not just for African Americans, it's for everybody who's an American. So I appreciate not only the history of Stevie Wonder, but here's a man that doesn't make excuses. Could you imagine if anyone wanted to make excuses, Big C, as to why they can't succeed or why they can't even try? It could be Stevie Wonder. Can you imagine how he could make excuses because he could not see the notes in any music chart? He could not see what his backup singers were doing. He could not see the audience and how they responded to his music. But as one of the greatest performers in the history of the world, Stevie Wonder is that, and he's still doing his thing. John Legend, what can you say about his voice? Whether he's doing something on the piano or just singing with his voice, the great John Legend, so graceful, such a talented performer, and that class that you have in the African American community. I know I love my rap music too. I kind of love everything, and I know sometimes there's a lot of things that you gotta bleep out because the music is not always pleasing for your ears, but it is for adults. And we know in the real world there's adults music and there's also kids music. They also have kind of a PG version too, parental guidance version. But music is about expression, and it goes back to what the great Dave Chappelle said. he didn't have insects. He had some blank cockroaches, and I just thought, and I laughed so hard. I saw President Obama laughing. That gave me a lot to laugh about too, and just so appreciate him and Neo and Usher. Neo, what a great performer, entertainer, and really appreciate what he did when they paid homage to the great Michael Jackson, the late great Michael Jackson. What a shame we never had Michael Jackson and Prince perform. Could you imagine the late Prince and the late Michael Jackson performing? I know with all the pull that Quincy Jones had, I'm sure they had some conversations, but sometimes things just don't happen. But really missed it as a humanity that we did not hear those two perform on stage. And then Usher, can't say enough about how great he can dance. Another guy, Big C, that obviously he works out, and you and I are going to have to hit the gym or something. I've tried to dance like Usher, but I think I pulled a hamstring. I'm going to have to go to the doctor and talk about that hamstring pull, Big C. But again, just so much that I appreciate about the African-American culture and the culture of all Americans, whether we come up on Black History Month, which is the month that we launched Big C Sports. There's just so much in my spirit that I'm so excited for when it comes to that, and I appreciate all the great talent that went along with that. I do want to say this segment is sponsored by United Labor Guaranteed $100,000 life insurance. We work with all of the unions under the AFL-CIO, and we are endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. We're looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers because we simply want to put people back to work. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide on Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. So much for all of the great people that I appreciate, and I would not like to end this segment without saying I'm so appreciative that we had the great Colin Powell, former Secretary of State Colin Powell, to be on stage and to talk to the surviving members of the Tuskegee Airmen, and I just can't tell you how proud I am, because all of these men of color and these women of color, there was a time when our fathers and grandfathers, they couldn't have had what they enjoyed because our society said no. Predominantly white society said no. And that's why I have so much praise for Tom Hanks and Christina Aguilera, because they could have remained silent. They could have said, well, I'm not available. They could have said, I have other things to do. Because every white actor knows that, and even my white brethren in the media, and I love a lot of guys that are in the media that open doors for me, but they also know that segregation still exists. It still exists in Hollywood. It still exists in the sports world. And the only way we're going to end this thing is if we all acknowledge it. Just like cancer, we got to cut it out or it's going to take over. And it's not a good sight when it takes over. So I just appreciate everybody coming together and talking about it. And the Tuskegee Airmen, they were formed because they could not fight for the country with the white fighter pilots to defend this country. So they did it on their own, just like Big C Sports. They didn't make excuses and say, well, they won't let us do it, so we can't do it. Just like Stevie Wonder, they didn't say, well, we have a handicap, so we can't go forward. They fought for their country anyway, and even though they were not treated as well as some of the people that they fought against when they came to America, even as captors, they still fought for their country, and they did a great job. And as African Americans, every young person, you got to have hope, but it's hard to have hope if you don't know your history. So when the President-elect Donald Trump says he wants to make America great again, think about what the Tuskegee Airmen had to go through for this time period that Donald Trump wants to make America great again. They were segregated. They didn't have the same opportunities. So even the Tuskegee Airmen, I would like him to tell them what part about the past does he want to make great again, when you realize that they were ostracized from even defending the country, and they fought in a war, and Donald Trump, he skipped out several times. He didn't have the heart that they had, but he still wants to take America back, and I just don't understand. I wish he could go acknowledge the Tuskegee Airmen about what he means about making America great again. So very, very much so, Usher hit the stage and called the crowd to say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. We know the great performers of the past have always talked about standing up for yourself, and just really appreciate how much class and dignity we had back then. And I'm not going to end this segment without saying how much Muhammad Ali meant to the African American and also the world as a performer, as an entertainer, as an advocate. And between the performances were archival footages and photos and artifacts from museums, collection, and from iron shackles to Muhammad Ali's boxing gloves. I just think that when you look at slavery, you look at Jim Crow that came after slavery and all the segregation, and you look at the efforts to integrate our society, on both sides there's going to be a little bit of pain at times, but you got to get through the pain to go forward. So I appreciate everybody that's a human in our society that wants to treat people fair. We want to have equal wages for women and men. We want to have people willing to marry who they want to marry. We want to have people willing to live in whatever neighborhood they want to live in, to go to whatever school you want to go to. We want that. If you want to serve the country, you should not be segregated the way the Tuskegee Airmen did that. So I just want to end with what Stevie Wonder said. He's gave the special ends on a cautiously hopeful note, with Stevie Wonder reminding the audience of the power of performance to advance liberation. And I want to say that Big C Sports is part of that, liberating the American broadcast segment, because there's so many people that are still ostracized from fully participating in the world of broadcast radio and television. Men and women, whether you're black and white, everybody deserves opportunity. But let's open it up for everybody, and I want to make sure that we do that. And I want to close by saying I'm so grateful to the performers and Oprah Winfrey and Mary J. Blige and all the great performances that happen at the Smithsonian, and that celebrates the history of African Americans and what we've done as a people, and oftentimes through a lot of oppression. And again, I want to say congratulations to President Barack Obama. You have more class than you even know. A lot of young boys can look to you and have hope. Maybe that they won't become the next president, but they can become the next attorney or the next senator or the next person with class and dignity, and you are loved all over the world. You can't please everybody because somebody won't like you no matter what you say. And for all of those who want to end Obamacare, for all the congressmen, I hope that you also will end your own health insurance until you come up with a new plan, since you want to strip it from 30 million Americans. I think speaking and put your money where your mouth is more important than just talking. So hopefully they'll have the prescience to do that in their own health care first before they take away health care and access to any health care policy for any American. So I want to just, again, thank you guys for all that you've done, for all the people that we've mentioned, for all the success that you've poured into the world of entertainment and history and performance, and not just as African Americans, but as Americans. We thank you for that very much and very honored. This segment is also sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance, with the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. You can tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. And always know that everything that we do in the world of sports, we want to leave the world open to other people and show them how they can also succeed at Big C. And I know you're out traveling right now, but I just want to do a quick rundown for the NFL playoffs coming up this weekend. And no matter who you like, this is exciting for me because I love football, and I love the fact that we're starting to decide who's going to be in the Super Bowl, and they actually get the chance to play themselves in. What we'll do right now, Big C, we're going to take a look at the divisional playoffs. I have the Seattle Seahawks there, 11-5-1. They're at the Atlanta Falcons there, 11-5. That game Saturday at 4:35 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox Sports, and the great Kevin Burkhardt and John Lynch and Pam Oliver, as well as Peter Shaker, they have their play-by-play. Now, the Atlanta Falcons are favored by 5 in this game, and they probably should be. This is the same team that went to Seattle at Quest Field and nearly beat them. I know there was a deep pass to Julio Jones, and he was defended on that play and by Richard Sherman, and had a great game, had I believe 139 yards passes in reception, but no touchdown in that game. And we know that Richard Sherman is a shutdown cornerback. That's going to be a matchup that everybody's going to want to pay attention to. And that was a controversial ending, but I know Big C, sometimes that's because Julio Jones was doing a skit on catching catfish down the South. They did it on ESPN the way you do. I didn't see him catching the catfish, and I didn't see him catch the ball against Richard Sherman in that game when they needed it the most. But Seattle got out of there with a close win. That was at home. These teams have done it before, even several years ago when the 49ers went to the Super Bowl and played the Baltimore Ravens. And that was a game where It actually, I believe, nearly went to overtime, and the Falcons pulled out a win over Seattle, and that's when Seattle had beast mode. The injury report for the Seahawks, the running back C.J. Prosise has a shoulder injury and probably won't play, even though we could have a change of when it comes to game time. He may find a way to get him in there. And the Falcons cornerback, Robert Alford, has a knee. He's expected to play. And I think the key to this game was the air attacks. The Falcons, Matt Ryan, he's a guy that can spin it for about 300 yards a game. It seems to be pretty effortless for him. I remember when Ryan came out here to the West Coast, not only against the Seattle Seahawks had a good game up north, but against the Oakland Raiders had a good game. And then they pounded the Los Angeles Rams in a game when they came out here. So you got to look at the Falcons. They can really put the ball in the air, and you look for Ryan to have a good game, especially at home. This is the last season at home in that stadium. They're moving to the Mercedes-Benz Dome right in the parking lot across from where they're playing right now in Atlanta. Now, you look at his counterpart, Russell Wilson, who he benefits from a handful of big play receivers. I think when you think about him, they talk about his legs. If Seattle's going to win this game, you got to find a way for Russell Wilson not to just stand in the pocket. And the great thing about Wilson, his biggest asset is running out of the pocket. If he can get out of the pocket, and he has guys like Doug Baldwin, who had 11 catches and 104 yards and 1 touchdown last weekend versus Detroit, and Jermaine Kearse and Paul Richardson combined to move the chains and serve as the deep threats for Seattle. The secondary is going to be big. They don't have Earl Thomas, but they do have Cam Chancellor, who missed the game in October. I know it's easy to say the home team's going to win a game. Atlanta doesn't have a history of winning playoff games. In fact, I believe Ryan's only won 1 playoff game, Big C. This is a game where Russell Wilson, he's done it before. He's done it as an underdog. I think it still sticks in the craw that they don't have beast mode. Had they given him the ball at least twice on the goal line against New England and against, everybody has their own opinion, but that probably would have been another Super Bowl win for the Seattle Seahawks, where they don't have that beast mode in the backfield. So I'm leaning toward Atlanta, but I'm not going to doubt Seattle because they found a way with Pete Carroll and his playoff experience to win games. And remember, Dan Quinn, the coach for the Atlanta Falcons, he was on the staff with Pete Carroll when they went to the Super Bowl. So you would like to think that Pete Carroll kind of knows some of the guys that he helped tutelage along the way. Another game, the Houston Texans 10-7 at the New England Patriots 14-2. That game is Saturday, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS Sports. The great Jim Nantz, Phil Simms, Tracy Wolfson, and Jay Feely are doing the play-by-play. Now, the Patriots are favored by 15 points in that game, and it's hard to get double digits in the NFL, especially when you go to the playoffs. But I would say the Houston Texans and the great Brock Osweiler, they're probably the most overrated team in football right now that made the playoffs. They only made it because of some teams that got knocked out, but you gotta give them credit. They did win their division, and they don't have J.J. Watt in this game, so they're not going to put a lot of pressure on Tom Brady, but they're going to have to try to blitz. They do have a very good defense, but when you look at this game, the weather report is partly cloudy, and it's going to be a high of 29 degrees, a low of 24, and Houston plays in the Dome down in Texas, so going out into the cold is going to really cost them. Now, the injury report, the outside linebacker, John Simon, has a chest injury, and safety Quentin Demps has a hamstring. They're day-to-day, and the Patriots wide receiver Malcolm Mitchell has a knee, but he's day-to-day, and Belichick will find a way to probably get him into the play. But I think the key to this game, and everyone talks about the great Tom Brady, who played high school football in California at Sarah High School in San Mateo, went to the University of Michigan and played there, and now he's been able to get into the New England Patriots because of an injury, and he's been just balling ever since. So he looks like he still can play another 5 to 7 years, the way Brady doesn't get banged up. But if you look at this game, LeGarrette Blount, who played at the University of Oregon, he's missed the last 2 practices because of an illness, but he'll be back. This is a guy that has to move the chains. I know they don't want to run up in the front of that, in the meat of that defense for Houston. Oakland made it look like they were running against the steel curtain. But I still think that New England's just a better coached team, better athletes, not just Tom Brady being a better quarterback than Brock Osweiler, who's just gotten a streak of luck, $73 million contract without even meeting with the ownership. He was actually benched. Not only was he benched by the the Denver Broncos last year to Brayton Manning, who had a broken neck and a cast on his foot. But he's benched again this year. And he's thrown, I believe, over 16 interceptions. Now, I'm not knocking anyone who plays at the NFL level, but I think you'll see these two quarterbacks and all the talk that we give quarterbacks, the hype. Tom Brady has earned the hype. I mean, he's just a Super Bowl champion. And if there's anything you can do to slow him, you're going to have to blitz him the same way Denver got after him last year in the AFC Championship game. I just don't see that happening. I see that this 15 points, maybe they win by 20 points the way the Patriots can play. I would not be surprised if they had a 20-point win. And this Las Vegas arguably is trying to get some more money to go on the Houston side. But I think I look for, and I'm not here on picking games where the best teams will win, but I would not be surprised if New England wins this game by 3 touchdowns. And if you think about it, some of the keys to the game is start hot if you're the Texans. They can't afford to fall behind. But with Brock Osweiler going up against Belichick, I don't know how they can stay ahead at all against this Patriots team that seems to be every year back in the hunt for a Super Bowl or at least an AFC Championship game. Osweiler was 12 of 18, 146 yards and a touchdown against the Raiders. But the Raiders were done when Carr got injured. They just hadn't played themselves. And I think Cook came in out of Michigan State as their number 1 pick in the 4th round, but he's just not NFL caliber quarterback at this time. Hopefully Carr will heal up just fine and he'll get back into the swing of things next year for the Oakland Raiders. But I think that the Texans, they rely heavily on running back Lamar Miller, had 31 carries, 73 yards. And obviously they're playing against a good team in New England. I just don't see a way they can stay on the field unless Brady throws interceptions and starts throwing like he's Peyton Manning. I don't think that's going to happen. I just think that the Brady experience and their offensive line, and you look at Houston, the defensive ends of Davian Clowney and Whitney Marsalis and company, they had their way against the injury-riddled Raiders. But New England, they're a different breed of cat. And I look at how Brady is going to lead this team again. He makes it look so smooth. But I still say it's LeGarrette Blount and their stout offensive line that's been intact for 11 consecutive games. And I look at, again, at least a 3-touchdown win in this game coming up. I want to say this final segment is sponsored by, we do this insurance called Athletic and Events Insurance, and we can cover teams and athletes in all 50 states. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. We simply want to give you coverage if you're a pro athlete, or if you're a college athlete, or if you have high school events, even your mom and pop soccer leagues, we can get you covered on Big C Sports. One of the more attractive games that people are looking forward to also, if you look at the days of the Steel Curtain, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers at 12-5. They're the Kansas City Chiefs 12-4. That game is Sunday, 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC. And the great Al Michaels, love the way he calls the football games. Chris Collinsworth, Michelle Tafoya, and Heather Cox will have the play-by-play. Now this, if you're from Las Vegas and you wonder about this game, the Steelers played Kansas City in the regular season, and there was a blowout win by the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was not even close. I think it was 40-something to 13. I know we talk about that was in the regular season, and the playoffs are a different story. But that game is Sunday, 1:05 Eastern Time on NBC Sports. We talked about Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth, Michelle Tafoya, Heather Cox. Now the Chiefs are favored by 1 at home. Andy Reid, I believe, coming off a bye, he's 19-3. Okay, but this Steelers team is a different breed of cat. They blew out the Miami Dolphins. They're really hitting their stride. I know they had a boot on the leg of Big Ben. It reminds me of Peyton Manning last year when he took the boot off and all they did was win a Super Bowl with their defense. The weather report has 50% chance of freezing rain and a high of 37 degrees. But think about what happened when Pittsburgh went to Buffalo. They played in the snow. This game is not going to snow. And the Steelers, when they have a running game and a guy like Le'Veon Bell that can really carry the rock, it doesn't seem to hurt them. I think when you look at the Steelers and Big Ben, the foot, he's going to play. Tight end, Darius Green, he's in concussion protocol. I don't know if he'll play or not. And the Chiefs linebacker, Justin Houston, has a knee. He's expected to go. A lot of guys know you can stomach the pain, Big C, when it comes to playoff football. Now, the Chiefs have excelled at taking away the ball all season. They're tied in NFL league with 16 turnover ratio, plus 16 turnover ratio. and a league-high 33 takeaways, and they scored 4 defensive touchdowns. They're almost like that Alabama defense when it comes to scoring touchdowns on the defensive side of the ball, and they're going to have to do that to take the ball away from Big Ben. I think one of the matchups that we're looking at, the Steelers running back, Le'Veon Bell and the Chiefs running defense, I look at Le'Veon Bell. He reminds me of a faster Franco Harris. Remember, Franco would always run the ball, and he would be patient. He's about 6'2". He was patient. He would always read his offensive line. He would cut off the offensive line, and he would cut back, and he could stop on a dime. But the big Franco never took a lot of punishment the way maybe an Earl Campbell would. He would always run out of bounds and save his body. And I think Le'Veon Bell is the same kind of running back. He just has more moonshine in his speed, Big C. A little bit more hitch in his giddy up. A lot more entertaining to watch than the great Franco Harris, who is a Hall of Famer, by the way. So really like the Steelers' chances of going into Kansas City. I know a lot of people like to see Smith with Kansas City. They want to see them win a big game. But I know last year that when the Chiefs shut out Houston on the road, I think they won 31-0. They went up to New England, and they got beat by the Patriots. Alex Smith also, his best chance to go to a Super Bowl was when he was in San Francisco under Jim Harbaugh, and they had the New York Giants in town, and they actually had a chance at winning that game. That wasn't his fault. They lost. They had a fumbled punt return, and the Giants took advantage of that the same way they did back when Montana and Roger Craig was going for a three-peat, and the Giants came into Candlestick and beat them in that game. But I do look at the Steelers because of Le'Veon Bell and his ability to run the ball. And the Chiefs, they're 26th among the run in the NFL. They've allowed 121 yards a game, and that's 4.4 yards per attempt. Now, without inside linebacker Derek Johnson, he has an Achilles heel injury. Kansas City is going to be challenged to stop Le'Veon Bell. And if you can pound the ball with Le'Veon Bell, and then Big Ben can throw the ball downfield and also into the flat, also with the screenplay, it's going to keep you guessing on defense. So I'm going to go with Big Ben over Smith in that game, even though I hope the best team wins. It just looks like the Steelers have too much firepower where they need it the most. That's the quarterback position. Big Ben's been to a Super Bowl. Smith is not. Le'Veon Bell knows how to run the football. I think the Chiefs' run defense is not that stout, and it just looks like a game that the Steelers can win. They've already played in the snow. They know they left a lot on the field against Miami. I think Miami is a fast team, and just as fast as Kansas City, but I look at the Steelers getting past this game. And I want to say this final segment sponsored by BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org and Cynthia Evans with CYNN Entertainment. She's the best in the country when it comes to promotions. Tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. The last NFL game we'll touch on, and it's a game that has so many different twists and turns to it. You look at the America's favorite team, and we've all heard that the America's favorite team for years has been the Dallas Cowboys. The Green Bay Packers 11-6, playing the best football right now, I think, in the NFL. They're going into Dallas, Jerry Jones Palace. Dallas is 13-3, and they really should be 14-2, but Jerry Jones, he benched Prescott in the final game of the season at Philadelphia, so he took his foot off the gas. And it's almost like a locomotive. If you've ever seen a locomotive, once you get momentum, it's hard to stop it and then start it again. Okay, and I think that may cost Dallas. I don't know who's going to win this game, but I do know one thing. When you stop the momentum of a locomotive, it's hard to get it going again. And that game is Sunday, 4:40 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox Sports. The great Joe Buck, the great Troy Aikman, and Aaron Andrews, and Chris Myers with the play-by-play. Now, the Cowboys are favored by 5. And if anyone saw the game where the Cowboys lost 2 games this season where they started all of their players, they were to the New York Giants, and by a combined 4 points. Now, if you saw what the Green Bay Packers did to the New York Giants, it was more than a 5-point margin of victory. They scored 38 points against the Green Bay against the Giants, okay? That game was at home. Now, when you look at Aaron Rodgers and how he was almost perfect in the second half, in fact, throwing that late touchdown pass in the first half, that shows you that he did not take his foot off the gas. McCarthy didn't say, hey, we have the lead, just take a knee. He didn't say that. They threw the ball to the end zone, and it wasn't just a throw-up pass. It wasn't just a Hail Mary. Aaron Rodgers is very accurate. So that if you're a Dallas defense, which is not the strongest in the secondary, you're going to see that same kind of Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers plays in the cold in Green Bay, but going inside the dome in Jerry World, he's going to probably be a little bit better off throwing the ball there. No wind factor and no frozen hands, dropping footballs. If you look at the injury report, the wide receiver Jordy Nelson has ribs, and he's unlikely to play. I think he'll probably find a way to get in there. How effective will he be? I don't know. Cowboys left tackle Troy Smith has a knee issue and in a back issue. He's practiced and should be ready to play. Now, the key to this game is protection. When Dallas beat Green Bay in Week 6, and the Cowboys defensive end, David Irvin, destroyed the Packers offense, forcing 3 fumbles, recovering 1, and he even got one sack and also broke up a pass. Now, everybody knows who he is now, but I think if you look at Rodgers, you can fool him once, shame on you. Fool him twice, shame on me. I don't think it's going to happen the same time or the same way it did last time. They will make some adjustments for that. Okay, in the last 5 games, you have to look at Irvin's. He's had 3 sacks in the last 5 games, the last 3 games, and 12 quarterback hits and 2 tackles for losses, 2 pass breakups, and a forced fumble. Now, second team All-Pro left tackle David Bakhtiari in the Green Bay line, they're going to have to account for him and keep him away from quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who we all know he can slide out of the pocket and throw the ball downfield. So that's something that you have to be aware of if you're going to game plan against the great Aaron Rodgers. Kind of the elephant in the room for this game. We talked earlier about how you take your foot off the gas or you stop a locomotive when it's traveling at full speed. It's hard to get it started again. The Packers cornerback Ladarius Gunner and the Cowboys wide receiver Dez Bryant, they'll be lined up against each other. And the Packers lined up Gunner against New York Giants Odell Beckham Jr., and he followed him all around last week, and he only had 4 catches, 28 yards. Now, Beckham also dropped a pass, but Beckham's normally going to dominate anybody he goes against, so I'm not going to give Gunner the advantage over Bryant. Now, Bryant may have lost a step since he had the foot issue, broke his foot, and come back, but he's still a great player, and he's great because he has a quarterback in Prescott that can get him the ball, and he's great because he has Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. When you look at this game, okay, the Packers lined up with a great pass formation, a great passing game, because they have Aaron Rodgers. But the running game is not going to be a factor for Green Bay. It's all going to be how well Aaron Rodgers plays, and that's going to tell you how far the Pack can go in the playoffs, especially with Jordy Nelson having a rib issue. And I love the way they're playing right now, but he can make a difference just being in the game. Now, if you look at what happened with the Dallas Cowboys, I think Bryant will have a good game because he's going to atone, at least he wants to, when he caught the winning touchdown pass in Green Bay a couple of seasons ago. He took 4 steps, they called touchdown, they go to the booth, and it took about 2 minutes for them to reverse the call and say that he did not have possession of the ball. In an NFL playoff type atmosphere in a championship game, that sent Dallas on. Actually, it sent Dallas home and sent Green Bay over to Seattle, and they lost in an overtime game on a final throw too by Russell Wilson. I think there's a lot of payback coming when Bryant's on the field. I think he's going to want the ball a lot. I think he'll make good plays. I think when you look at the mindset of Dak Prescott, if they can roll him out of the pocket and let him become a running threat the same way Wilson is with Seattle, he can also throw the ball downfield. He's very accurate. And then they have the home run king and Ezekiel Elliott. Maybe he'll jump into another Salvation Army, a bucket, and take a little fine, but give money to youth or all around the country. This is just an intriguing game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game where both teams, the team that wins will most likely have to score 30 in this game because both offenses can score. I just wonder about Dallas taking their foot off the gas. That's the only thing that concerns me about this game. They really haven't played their starters in 3 weeks because they didn't play them against Philadelphia for more than maybe a snap or two. And they wanted to get Tony Romo in the game. I don't know why. He's only won 1 playoff game in 12 years. But there's something about losing momentum. If Green Bay is to win this game, I would not be surprised. Even though I'm gonna look at Dallas with a slight edge. But if they don't get the momentum back that they lost by not playing hard in the game at Philadelphia, I would not be surprised at all. And I just looking forward to a great matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys, and so much in the world of sports and football. We all love saying that sports will galvanize people, and we believe that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and it's boys and girls sports that is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And what I love with my partner, Big C Sports, I know he's away today. He's out traveling around on the East Coast. And I just want to appreciate everything that the world of sports has done. And I appreciate so much of what the NFL is doing with the world of the NFL playoffs, and how you actually have to play your way in to win a Super Bowl. Unlike college football, you're not voted in. So hopefully we'll have great football, over this weekend. And I know that a lot of people are looking forward to that. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the shame of having the San Diego Chargers relocating back to Los Angeles. And not that they're going back, that's a shame. They started in Los Angeles in 1960. But they're going to play in the StubHub Center, which is a 30,000-seat stadium where they have soccer. The LA Galaxy play there. And they also host high school football games there in Carson, California. They're going from a 70,000-seat stadium that held the Super Bowl at Qualcomm Stadium to a 30,000-seat facility, as if the fans will just buy anything. And LA's a different breed of cat. When you come there, you want something that's first class. Why not stay in San Diego for the next 2 years trying to work out a deal, and then go to Los Angeles if you want to go? I think they were just trying to beat the Raiders there. It looks more and more like the Raiders will at least not go to LA. They're not going to have 3 pro football teams in Los Angeles. If they're still looking at Las Vegas, I think that'd be a shame for Northern California. That's a growing region of the country. The Bay Area has over 7 million people, a lot larger than Las Vegas, and it's not a transient city. You have people who have worn the silver and black in their blood for years, for several decades, Big C. Also want to congratulate the Rams hired Sean McVay from Washington, from the Redskins, so congratulations to him, a young hire. I believe he's only 30 years old. He has a lot of work to do, putting the team together in Los Angeles. Also for the LA Chargers, they hired Anthony Lynn from the Buffalo Bills. So congratulations to Mr. Lynn getting the coaching job there. No matter what you look at in the world of sports, it's a world that brings everybody together. And we love the fact that you follow Charlton and Big C Sports. And I miss my partner in Big C, but I know he's a little bit hungover from the moonshine, even though he said he's flying around on the East Coast. I just wish him the best as we all look to celebrating this great weekend coming up, this holiday, the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, and what the great Dr. King did for all Americans to help make opportunities equal for everybody, no matter what color you are. A great galvanizer to bring people together. So really appreciate celebration coming up that we have on Monday for the late Dr. Martin Luther King, and just love so much of what he's meant to all people, and saying that I have a dream. Well, we all have a dream, and his dream, I'm sure, is a lot different than President-elect Donald Trump trying to make America great again. America is a lot greater now than it was when Dr. King gave his I Have a Dream speech, because we're full of hate and segregation and bigotry, and there's just no place for that. Even if you're not a woman, you don't have to be a woman to understand that sexism is wrong. You don't have to be a woman to understand that they get paid less for the same kind of work. You don't have to be a woman to understand that. You don't have to be a woman to understand that there should be zero tolerance against domestic violence and violence against women. You don't have to be a woman for that. And you should not have to be African American to understand that racism is a pain, is an evilness that we have to get rid of. We have to eradicate it the same way we have to eradicate sexism, and we can do it through the world of sports and entertainment. So again, as we close today, I want to thank everyone for following Big C Sports. I really want to say again, great job by the Smithsonians for the National Museum for African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. at the John F. Kennedy Center. They had the performing arts. Just a great job by the great Oprah Winfrey, one of the best talents in the history of television. So thank you, Oprah, for giving a lot of hope to people like myself and Big C, and a lot of other people all around the world, not just African Americans, but people all over the world who grew up and believing they could be something when they normally did not see it on television. They still believe that they could be it. So I hope that you'll continue going strong and telling people how they can achieve. And we look at people who have differences. That's okay. Let's all talk about it and get along. And again, I want to thank the great Angela Bassett for her work at the award ceremony, and Dave Chappelle, and the great Tom Hanks, the great Samuel L. Jackson, the great Quincy Jones. Never would be another producer like him. and also the great Will Smith, and performances by Mary J. Blige and Christina Aguilera, the great Herbie Hancock, and no one can do it like the great Gladys Knight. Remember her for Gladys Knight and the Pimp. Just a great history seen right in front of our eyes. The great John Legend, Neo, what a talented performer. Usher, no one can dance like Usher. The great Stevie Wonder does not have eyesight, but he has some of the best vision in the history of the planet. So thank you, Stevie, for doing your thing and showing anyone that they can overcome anything as long as their heart is in it, Big C. And also, former Secretary of State Colin Powell, so proud to say that you're the former Secretary of State of the United States of America, and that you had a salute to the surviving Tuskegee Airmen, men that did it through segregation, men that did it when they were hated at home, men that did it when they could not come back and drink out of any water fountain they wanted to, after defending this great country. No, Donald Trump, that's not making America great to go back into the past. They made it great through their service. And I also want to appreciate all of the people that paid homage to Muhammad Ali and what he meant, not to just African Americans, but to people all over the world. All of us have something that we can give. You can't please everybody. In Big C Sports, we're not going to please everybody either. Sometimes people say we're too truculent, or sometimes we just always say the nice things to people. Well, not everybody's going to be nice in the world, and not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody likes us. Some people love us, some people don't, but it's not going to stop us from doing our thing. You know, we're not perfect, but we're trying to get better and better every day at what we do, and that's just having real talk. And whether it's Hollywood or the entertainment industry or the political industry, you know, I appreciate it very much. And so much was learned by just watching the award ceremony. We know that we can tie it in with sports and entertainment. I want to say, with my heartfelt emotions, the great President Barack Obama, you mean more than you'll ever know, not just to African Americans, but to people all over the world. And the great First Lady, Michelle Obama, you guys are just total class. And I just want to wish you the very best in all you do. Please continue your great service to the public. And as we'll always say, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide, follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the #1 network in the country, and also Big C Sports. Go to the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. Let's go to boys. And as we always tell you, there's never any excuse for domestic violence. No woman should ever have to go through that garbage on her own. If you know anyone in trouble, just call 911. Don't make her have to deal with it on her own. And as we always tell you, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide, follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. And as we always tell you, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.